This video is going to show you how to make a cover for your explosion book. So materials that you will need for this, you will need some cardboard. You can use, this is just from a cardboard box. You could use a thinner cardboard from a cereal box. Anything will work. A tag board will work. Tag board or mat board will work all right, but cardboard works best. You will need some sort of paper. I have some decorative paper here that I'm going to use. You could also, you could paint your own paper and cut that up. You could use construction paper, you could use magazine, newspaper, kind of anything that you can find. I wanted one nice even color, so I'm going to be using this orange paper. You should have a scissors, a glue stick. This brand, Uhu, works really, really good. You should have a piece of scrap paper. You should have something to write with and a ruler or something else that you can measure with. So step number one, we need to measure the paper for our covers. So once you have your explosion book all put together, you're gonna close it up and your book should be the shape of a square. Now you wanna take your ruler and measure, figure out how big this square is. If you are using a standard piece of construction paper, your square is probably 4 inches by 4 inches. My square, since I'm working a little bigger, is 6 inches by 6 inches, all right? So I will draw that out for you, okay? So I have square-ish. All right, so I have a square that is 6 by 6. So I need to cut a piece of cardboard that is a 1/2 inch bigger than my book. So if we look at this, if I set my book here, so I'm gonna put my book up to one corner and then there's a little bit of overlap on 2 of the sides. So if my book is 6 inches by 6 inches, then my cardboard needs to be 6.5, oops. Then my cardboard needs to be 6.5 by 6.5, all right? Again, if you're working from, if your book is 4 inches by 4 inches, then your cardboard would need to be 4.5 by 4.5, all right? So I have those 2 pieces cut already. Once I have my pieces of cardboard, now I need to cut my paper, all right? And I've actually done this already, but just to show you how I went through and did that, I added 2 inches on. Okay, so if my paper, my cardboard here is 6.5 inches, then I made my paper 8.5 inches, all right? 8.5 by 8.5. It could overhang a little more than this, but you want at least an inch on all 4 sides. And whatever paper you are using, you want to have 2 sheets cut. One for your front cover and one for your back cover. All right, now that I have my paper cut, I need to glue my cover onto my paper. Now, the box that I use has some writing on the back of it, so when I glue this, I'm going to be gluing the writing side down. So I have some scrap paper underneath me, underneath my paper, my cardboard here. And this is the side of the paper that I want to show. So I want my covers to be orange. So I'm going to be flipping it over and gluing it to this side. And I'm going to apply my glue liberally. I'm going to put a lot of glue on. I have the scrap paper underneath, just like I did with my pages, so that I can go off the edge and not worry about getting glue on my table. And you can see this glue is going on really, really thick, especially to glue cardboard to paper. You have to put on more glue than you think you're going to need, all right? So don't be afraid to have a lot and make sure that you go off the edges. All right, and then really quickly, get your cap on your glue stick so your glue doesn't dry out. Take this and we want to glue this as close to the center as we can. If you want, you could go through and like draw this mark in here so that it's perfectly in the center. I'm not super worried about it, so I'm gonna go through. And then I'm gonna take my hand, I use the edge of my fist, and I'm gonna go through and push. Make sure everything is pushed down really, really well. And then I'm gonna flip mine over. And just like we did with our pages, I'll take my clean scrap paper and especially along the edges here, I'm going to run my paper and make sure that this is glued down really, really good. This is super important when you're gluing paper to cardboard. If you don't do this, if you don't push down, it is not going to stick. All right. Okay. Now I have that done. I'm going to cut the corners and fold this paper over. So I'll take out my ruler here, and what we need to do is we need to fold this paper over. Now if we fold the paper over like this in the corner, our paper is going to get bunched up and not look that good. So we're going to take our ruler or a straight edge and hold it up. And so I'm not going to put my ruler straight along there. I'm holding it at a diagonal along the edge. And I'm going to take my Sharpie here and draw this in. Okay. Now if you notice, that line perfectly touches the tip or the edge of my cardboard. All right. We don't want that line to be too far up from the cardboard or too far down. We want it to be perfectly lined up with the cardboard. And I'm going to repeat that for the rest of the corners. Now the angle, you could kind of change your angle a little bit. You want to try to get the angle as close to even as you can on both sides. Like I wouldn't want to have it angled like this so that I'm cutting a little bit off of this side and a lot of it off of that side. That would not work, okay? We need to kind of make this even. So we end up getting a right triangle right there. All right, so we're doing this 4 times. And then we are going to, so you can see I have all 4 of my corners drawn in. Now we are going to take and cut those out. Again, while I'm cutting, I want to make sure that I'm going right along the corner. I don't want any of the corner of my box to be cut, to be sticking out of the end, okay? All right, now I have my 4 corners cut off, and if I flip this over, I can see, you can tell that I have my cardboard glued down and I have all 4 corners cut off. So now I need to glue these tabs over. So first I'm gonna fold them. So I'm gonna take them, kind of run my hand along the side, and then make sure that they fold over really nicely. Now I like to use the back of my thumb, or you could even use like the back of your scissors or something, just like we did when we were folding our book. The ruler, even like the top of the glue stick would maybe work. We just want to make sure that that is folded nice and tight over there. Now if you're using thick cardboard like I am, it's going to be a little trickier to get it folded over, so you need to make sure that it gets folded. Now one thing I should have mentioned before I started this is these corners that I cut off, I'm going to save those, all right? So don't throw those away right away. We're gonna save those and I'll show you why in a second. Now I have all 4 of mine folded over and I would need to glue. Now you're gonna notice, even though I did a really good job of cutting mine, notice when I fold this, I can see a little bit of my cardboard through here. Now I don't like how that looks. I think that looks pretty unprofessional. So here is a trick for that. So I'll open these back up, and I'm going to take these corners that we cut before, and we are going to glue our corner to our corner. All right, now that I have my 4 corners glued down, now I can glue these tabs over. And when I glue, you're still gonna see a gap, but there's gonna be that orange paper in there. So it's not gonna be as noticeable as if it were to be the cardboard. So I'm gonna use my scrap paper again. I just kind of folded it over because it got gunky there. And put my scrap paper under my spot. I'm gonna use the same glue stick here, and I am going to glue. Now, using your glue and your scrap paper, apply as much glue as you can, and then when you fold your tab over, you really have to press. Press as hard as you can, and if you notice, I'm kind of almost pulling my paper towards me, because as you're folding this cardboard or this paper over the thick cardboard, it's gonna want to have gaps, and we don't want that. So we want to press as hard as we can so our cardboard is wrapped as tightly as we can get it. All right, there. And now I have one of my covers tightly covered, and I'm going to do my second one. Now I have my two covers covered in paper, and later on I'm going to go through and decorate these a little bit. I could draw on top of these, I could collage on top, I could make a title page, I could glue something around my book to secure it. I could do just about anything I want to these covers, but for now I just have them orange. And I'm going to show you how to glue these covers onto your book. So first let's open and close your book. So we're going to open it here. We are going to close it. And then this cover needs to touch one of the corners. So if you remember, when we glue this down, there's going to be extra hanging off two of the edges. All right. So we're going to glue it like this. Now it matters which corner. So two of the edges you're going to line up with the book, and two of the edges we're going to have extra hanging off. Now it does matter which corner you choose. So the corner that opens is the corner, so it opens here, and I should see the edges hanging off on these two sides, all right? If I were to glue it there and have the edges hanging off here, then when I open my book, I wouldn't see my cover. I hope that makes sense to you. So when your book opens, I want to be able to see this part of my cover, all right? So I'm gluing it like that. So I'm lining up these two edges, and it's going to overhang on the part of the book that opens up. And I'm going to put this on here just like I have been doing everything, with a ton of glue. So I'm going to use my scrap piece of paper here, and this time I'm going to slip my scrap piece of paper inside of my book. And remember, this is the page that opens here. And I'm going to use a bunch of glue again. If you're using Elmer's glue, you should have something where you can like spread the glue. Maybe you have an old brush, or even just like a piece of cardboard where you can spread your glue out so that it goes up to the edges. But I'm using plenty of glue here because we want to make sure this book is put together sturdy and strong. All right, once I have that down, then I'm going to take my cover. It really doesn't matter which corner goes, but this is the corner that I need to line up. So I'm going to line up my edges, and I'm going to push. Now I'm going to open this up. I want to open this up and make sure this is on straight. I want to make sure that I didn't accidentally glue this on crooked. There, and I should have these two edges are lined up, and then I've got that extra hanging over. Now I'm going to open it up again, take another piece of scrap paper, see how my page is already starting to come up. That's why I need to go through and use a lot of pressure to get this glued down, okay? And remember, just like when we glued our pages in, I want to use a scrap paper, not just my hands, because my hands might smudge my artwork. And you can see here, some of the glue came up, so I'm gonna have to re-glue that piece. All right. So now I have my first cover glued down. Now I'm going to repeat with the second cover. And when I glue the second cover on, it's very important that, okay, so these are my two edges where the cover is lined up with the edge. I want to make sure that my front cover lines up with my back cover. All right, so when I put this on, I want to make sure they don't end up getting glued on like that, or that I don't accidentally glue like that, so the covers don't line up. So I'm going to go through the same process for this page. All right, so now I have my front and back covers of my explosion books. Oops. Of my explosion book added on, and I can go through and decorate those. Now, one tip before I go through and decorate, or before I finish, I want to set something heavy on top of this and let it sit overnight. So I might put something like this over the top so that it can sit flat. And that's all that you need to know for creating the covers to your explosion books.